Have you ever looked into a mirror and felt like something was looking back? Not just your reflection, but something else? Something that shouldn't be there? This is the true story of Liam, a man who learned the terrifying truth about mirrors and why some reflections don't belong to us at all. Liam had just moved into a new apartment. Cheap rent, quiet neighbors, and fully furnished. The landlord mentioned one thing in passing. "Oh, and whatever you do, don't remove the mirror in the bedroom. It's part of the original design." Liam barely paid attention. A mirror was a mirror, right? That night, he lay in bed, scrolling through his phone, when something caught his eye. The full-length mirror across the room showed his reflection, but something was off. His reflection wasn't mimicking him exactly. When he raised his hand, his reflection followed, but a split second too late. It was subtle, almost unnoticeable. He laughed it off. Maybe I'm just tired. But deep inside, something felt wrong. A few nights later, Liam woke up at 4:20 a.m. His room was silent, but he felt watched. His phone screen illuminated the mirror. His reflection was there, but it wasn't moving. Liam froze. His real body was breathing, heart pounding, hands shaking. But in the mirror, his reflection stood still. Then it smiled, not a normal, sleepy grin. No, a wide, stretched, unnatural grin. Too many teeth, too much mouth. Liam scrambled out of bed and turned on the lights. His reflection snapped back to normal. He laughed nervously. Just my imagination, right? He decided to ignore it. A mistake. A big one. The next night, Liam decided to test the mirror. He held up 3 fingers. The reflection copied him. He tilted his head left. The reflection did too. He blinked. His reflection didn't blink back. His heart stopped. He stepped closer, staring at his own eyes. Something blinked inside them. Not him. Something else. A shadow shifting behind his pupils. His phone buzzed, making him jump. It was a message from his friend, Emma.
Hey, are you okay? You sent me something weird.
Liam frowned. He hadn't texted her. He opened his chat. A photo. A selfie of him, staring into the mirror. But in the photo, his reflection wasn't alone. A tall, shadowy figure stood behind him. He turned back to the mirror. His reflection was grinning again. This time, it moved before he did. It stepped forward, out of sync, and whispered something he couldn't hear. The mirror rippled like water. The reflection moved closer. Liam stumbled back. His reflection didn't stop. It reached through the glass. Cold fingers wrapped around his wrist. A sharp yank, Liam fell forward. The last thing he saw before the darkness swallowed him was his reflection stepping out of the mirror, stretching its new body. The next morning, Liam's phone buzzed again. A message from Emma. "Are you okay? You're acting weird." Liam, or the thing wearing his face, picked up the phone. A wide, too big smile spread across his lips. "I'm fine." It sent the message, and then it turned to the mirror. Inside the glass, the real Liam was screaming. Trapped, the thing on the outside grinned wider. "Don't worry," it whispered, pressing its hand against the glass. "You'll get your turn soon." My wife talks in her sleep. It started a few months ago, just whispers at first. I thought it was normal until last night. Because last night, she spoke in a voice that wasn't hers. And whatever was speaking knew my name. My wife, Emily, has never had sleep issues before. We've been married 5 years, and she's always been a silent sleeper. Until recently, it started subtly, soft mumbling, random words. I thought it was kind of funny. I even recorded her once to play it back in the morning. But last night it was different. I woke up at 3:12 a.m. to the sound of her whispering again. But this time, she wasn't mumbling. She was having a conversation with someone else. And the worst part, I heard another voice whispering back. I turned on my side and looked at her. Her lips were moving, but her face was wrong. She was smiling. Emily never smiles in her sleep. And then she said something that made my stomach drop.
He's awake.
I froze. My heart pounded. He knows now, she whispered. Then she turned her head toward me, eyes still closed, and spoke in a voice that wasn't hers. You shouldn't be awake, Daniel. My blood turned to ice. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Because Emily never called me Daniel. She always called me Dan. I whispered her name. Emily. Her breathing hitched. For a split second, I thought she was waking up, but then she laughed. Not a sleepy chuckle, not a normal laugh. This was slow, deliberate, and wrong, like something was amused by me. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. My hands were shaking as I pointed the light at her face. And that's when I saw it. Her lips were moving, but her mouth was completely shut. The whispers weren't coming from her mouth. They were coming from underneath the bed. I dropped the phone. The light flickered as it hit the floor, casting long, moving shadows across the room. And then I heard it, a soft, wet whisper from the darkness below. You should have stayed asleep. I don't remember what happened next. I woke up this morning still lying in bed, my heart racing. The phone was back on the nightstand. The flashlight was off. Emily was already in the kitchen, making coffee, humming like nothing had happened. I sat up, my hands still trembling. Hey, she said, turning to me with a smile. You okay?
You look pale.
I just nodded, because as she walked past me, I noticed something, a faint, dark handprint on her ankle, like someone had been holding on to her from under the bed.
He knows now.
Some houses are abandoned for a reason. You shouldn't go inside that house, the old man warned, his voice trembling. It whispers to those who listen, and it never lets them go. Jake and his friends laughed it off. They were young, thrill-seekers looking for a story to tell. The house had been abandoned for decades, standing alone at the edge of town like a forgotten nightmare. That night, they ignored the warnings and stepped inside. The door shut behind them, and the whispers began. The air inside was thick and stale, as if no one had breathed in it for years. The floorboards creaked under their feet, and an eerie chill ran through the air. Did you hear that? Whispered Lisa, her flashlight trembling in her hand. Jake smirked. Just the wind. But there was no wind. The whispers grew louder. Not words, just hissing voices that seemed to slither through the walls. Then the lights from their flashlights flickered and died. Total darkness. Then a sudden thump from upstairs. Jake's heart pounded. His breath quickened, but he refused to show fear. It's probably just the house settling, he muttered. Then came the laughter. Not theirs. Something was laughing upstairs. Against all logic, they climbed the stairs. Each step groaned under their weight, like the house itself was warning them to turn back. At the top of the stairs, a long hallway stretched into darkness. The whispers turned into words. He's coming. Lisa gasped.
Who's coming?
Then they saw it. At the end of the hallway stood a tall, thin figure, barely visible in the shadows. Its head was tilted unnaturally to one side. Its eyes were wide, hollow, and staring directly at them. It moved, not walked, just shifted. One moment it was at the end of the hall. The next it was inches away. Lisa screamed. The others ran, stumbling over each other as they bolted down the stairs. The door wouldn't open. "Let me out!" Jake screamed, yanking the handle. A whisper brushed against his ear. "You're already inside." And then the door opened. They tumbled out, gasping for breath, collapsing onto the grass. They turned back to look at the house. It was gone. The house had vanished. Only an empty lot remained, as if it had never been there. For days, Jake couldn't sleep. The whispers followed him home. He heard them in his room, in the shower, in the static of his television. One night, as he checked his phone, he saw a notification. New photo saved to gallery. Jake hadn't taken any pictures. He opened it. It was a selfie of him, asleep, and behind him was the figure, smiling.
What if some houses don't trap people inside, but instead follow them home? Like and subscribe if you're still awake. If you hear whispers tonight, don't listen.